Did you know that willpower is the wrong strategy? Your brain was never designed to run on willpower. A lot of people believe that if they just try harder, push more, and stay more disciplined, everything would change. But when you really think about it, if willpower would really work, you wouldn't be stuck. You wouldn't be in that same cycle over and over again. And this is really important because most people think willpower is a limitless resource, and it actually isn't, as it really is controlled by your prefrontal cortex. So that's here in front, and that really depends on different factors like how you slept, how your emotional state is, what your mood is, if you have pain. So it isn't limitless, it's actually very limited. So stop fighting your brain and start working with it. You will be more productive, you will actually have more energy, feel more motivated, and habits become much easier to implement. Welcome, I'm Heike Fallon, the founder of Expand Health and the creator of the NeuroHP method, and I combine neuroscience, sports therapy, personal performance coaching, all that, and help people who are not willing to be limited optimize their health, their personal performance for longevity. And I always remind them, the better you move, the better you feel, and the better you will live. Basically living longer with more fun, and who doesn't want to do that? So over 30 years, I've studied the brain, the body, and the connection, and today I want to share why willpower really fails and why your brain always wins. Here's what I'll cover today: why willpower is the wrong strategy, how the brain actually makes decisions, and why stress, pain, fatigue really override motivation, and how to build habits that last without forcing yourself. And this is something I teach my clients every single day. So before we go into it, make sure you grab my free PDF guide, and you'll find the link below, and you can download it, print it out. It's coaching prompts, and that will help you there. So here's what gets really interesting when we're talking about willpower. Willpower is not a brain system, it's a conscious override. An override uses up a lot of brain energy. And here's the thing, your brain's job is not success, its job is survival, efficiency, energy conservation, and predictability. Every decision you make costs energy, and your brain will always choose lowest cost option in order to feel safe. So a lot of people don't realize when you rely on willpower, you're working against your nervous system. You're asking the brain to basically ignore fatigue, ignore all the stress signals, ignore the pain, and that means your brain responds really with resistance, procrastination. It will essentially shut down. So you probably had that happen, that you thought all day, you know what, after work or whatever I'm doing, I'm gonna go train and I'm gonna work out, and I will do it. But your nervous system has been under a lot of stress. Maybe you had meetings, deadlines, or difficult conversations, or whatever else you had going on throughout the day. And by the afternoon or evening, your brain says, nope, I'm done. I've exhausted all my energy resources. And that's not that you're lazy. It's because just simply your brain doesn't have the energy, and it will change to a protecting stage, and it uses its resources to protect you. So then it's much harder to get up. So the real key here is your brain decides before you even can. So your brain is a prediction machine. It's constantly asked, is it safe? Is it worth spending the energy? Do I have to, be worried about surviving in this moment? And when the answers are unclear, the brain resists. And it will show up in lack of motivation, overthinking, avoidance, and that's really important because the brain listens to sensory input, not to your goals, not to anything else, but it's the vision, the balance, the breathing, body, movement, and tension. Those are signals that say, there's possibly a threat or I'm fatigued. So the brain shuts down all the efforts. I see this all the time with clients that come in and they say to me, you know what, I know what to do, but why can't I make myself do it? And we assess our system, and often we see poor balance, visual input lacking, and high muscle tone, and the brain is just simply overloaded, and no amount of willpower can override that. So you don't need more discipline, you need better sensory input. And here's what most people get wrong. They try to change their behavior without changing their state. And that is super important because your autonomic nervous system really is the one component that runs everything. So your sympathetic system is to go and push through and survive, and parasympathetic system is more known as the rest, digest, and adapt and heal. And if you're constantly in this high sympathetic state, your brain blocks change. When stress is high, everything else will drop. And that's why habits fall apart during the busy seasons. Not because you're failing, because your brain prioritizes survival. So think of it like trying to use willpower under stress is like trying to drive a car with the parking brakes on, right? You push harder and harder, but all you do is gonna burn out everything, the engine and the brakes, because it's just holding you back. So stress doesn't make you weaker, it makes your brain conservative. And this is where things shift. So your brain needs input and not more pressure. So that's why really brain-based movement is about changing your state first. So I usually do vision exercises, vestibular exercises, breathing exercises, easy joint mobility exercise, because all these systems tell the brain when there's good information coming in that it's safe. And when you move better, your brain receives better clarity information, and it can predict better, and it lowers the threat signals. So once the threat signals are lower, you actually have better motivation, your pain might reduce, and your energy definitely increases. This is why I say if you move better, you feel better, and you live better, because movement is really a key communication component to the brain. And again, it's not about really muscles and movement, it's really about activation in the brain. So let's get a little more practical. Here's what I want you to focus on. Key step number one is change your state first. So before habits, before goals, change your state. So you might be doing a breathing drill, you might be doing a little movement exercise, right? Visual exercises, and that tells your brain it's safe to engage. And once that happens, the next step is to kind of figure out how to reduce the threat. So that might be lower intensity, that might be shorter sessions, it might be a little bit more precise application. And that's for workout, but it's also for anything else. Because, for example, if you have a task and if it's such a big task, your brain feels a threat. But if you break that task down into a smaller task, that will actually make the brain feel that it's safe in order to do that. And then you kind of start with that small step. So breaking it down is a key component for workout and for other tasks. And then actually habits feel a lot more easy and easier to also repeat. So it doesn't feel so hard because your brain won't resist anymore. So now you understand why willpower fails. And another component that is important to understand, since I deal with a lot of clients with pain, if you're feeling pain, fatigue, or overthinking, the pain and everything else will always win against willpower every single time. A lot of people think, pain lives in the body, but pain is really an action signal created in the brain. And that's why you can have pain come and go, or even have pain when the doctor says they don't see anything wrong or damage. So pain is not damage, pain is a protective output. And your brain asks constantly, is this movement safe? If the answer is uncertainty, the pain might increase. And that in turn impacts your motivation, and movement feels a lot harder, heavier, and consistency is definitely out the window. So you cannot willpower your way through pain. And when you try, the brain will absolutely boycott you. So this is something I teach my clients all the time as well. Somebody comes in and they say, I know I should move, but my body won't cooperate. And, then the key is to start where your nervous system is at the moment, and then you build up from there. You don't just push through wherever it is. You're going to first evaluate, figure out where your system is at, and then start from there. So pain is not a motivation problem, it's a perception problem. Now let's talk about fatigue. Fatigue is a central signal, and your brain monitors energy that is available, the stress load, how well you recovered, and if it feels like all those reserves are low, your brain will keep everything a little bit slower, basically applying the brakes, and you might feel, that low energy procrastination. So Think of it, when you fatigue and it's a low fuel warning, you don't hit the gas harder. You go, when you're out of gas, you go to the gas station and refuel. But how often do we really listen to our system and recognize that we might need to refuel first? And that also applies to overthinking. Overthinking is not a mindset issue, it's a nervous system issue. Your brain overthinks when it feels unsafe, uncertain, and the brain cannot maybe predict as well. Then it's overanalyzing, and it tries to control the outcomes, and that burns a lot of energy, and willpower won't help with that. So you probably experienced that when you wanted to start something, but instead you researched more, you planned more, you delayed the actions, and your brain is just constantly searching for more certainty in order to start. And that's what willpower cannot fix. Willpower adds just more pressure increases threat, and threat increases more overthinking, and you end up in this loop of overthinking. And so it's really important to recognize that and then understand what the brain really needs is safety, and it needs coherence. And what I mean by coherence is the visual system, your balance system, so your inner ear, your breathing, your movement, all of these systems have to function very well, and they have to be integrated very well in order for the system to function very well. If there's some kind of mismatch, the brain will give us an output that makes us stop. And again, willpower will not fix the problem. So let's talk in relationship to this to habits. The problem is with a lot of habit strategy, they assume everything is good, right? We have low stress, good sleep, energy is perfect, and that's usually not the case. That's not reality. So your habits must match your nervous system state, your sensory load, your recovery capability. And then again, like I said, you start to wherever you're at and build up from there. So it's very important that you start with that, because I have it all the time happening. People start really, really hard, and it lasts for like 3 to 4 weeks because they were so motivated to get started, but their system wasn't able to handle it. Perfect example, New Year's resolutions. People are motivated, they get going, and after 3, 4, 5 weeks, it collapses, and no willpower will help that. It's really because your demand or what you put on your system wasn't matching what it can handle. And this is exactly why I created the NeuroHP method. It's all about health, performance, longevity, and everything being brain driven always. So it's always about the brain first, and the state always becomes before strategy, and input integration before any output. So safety is super important when it comes down to the brain. And when you work this way, willpower becomes totally irrelevant, because longevity isn't about forcing, it's about sustainability. And sustainability requires cooperation with your brain. The brain is the one calling the shot. So with that said, stop blaming yourself and start changing your results by actually utilizing a more brain-based approach. And that means, again, smaller inputs create bigger change. So small inputs means lower threat, low energy cost, more or higher predictability, and that's exactly what your brain needs, and you have to figure out where that is and build that up. So this is something I teach my clients when they say, I need to train for 1 hour, and you might just start with 5 minutes or 2 minutes, one drill, one exercise, whatever it be. So instead of thinking always these big things, change it to something much smaller. That is a brain-based approach. And it's really important because longevity isn't built on, just really, push and big and harder. It's really more about, am I safe? Can I adapt? And can I recover? So small inputs teach your brain to trust change. And here's another thing a lot of people don't realize. Poor visual processing creates a lot of times mental fatigue. Poor balance also inputs your whole over physical state and hesitation. So if your visual and vestibular systems are not functioning very well, it actually impacts also your movement, and that might be why you're not motivated to do it, because it doesn't feel good to the brain. So I have clients saying, I want to move, but I feel off, and that might be oftentimes because of the visual and the vestibular system. We train those, and once the system feels more balanced, better vision, actually they can do more and the results are a whole lot better. So now you understand why willpower fails. You understand how the brain builds habits. Now the real question is, how do you live this every single day? Because longevity is not the goal, it's a daily brain state. And a lot of people think training happens in workouts, but when you think about it, brain trains all day long. Just even right now, you're listening to me in this video. So every moment teaches our brain what matters, what's safe, what to repeat, your posture, your breathing, your visual environment, your stress response, all of this counts. And it's really important because longevity isn't built in isolated sessions, it's built in the daily patterns. If you're active and you care about your health, if you still want to perform well at any age, traditional advice often works against you, and a lot of active people think I should be able to do this and whatever I did before. But when you think about it, your nervous system has changed with life, load, work, family, stress, recovery demands, or what else is going on into your life. It's not because you're declining, it's because your brain is adapting. And so that's why you need a different approach, something that really supports more recovery, improves more sensory input, and builds adaptability, and really starts with your nervous system. And that's how active people stay strong, capable for long term. And here's what I really want you to take away. Step 1, stop relying on willpower. Notice when you're forcing it, that's a signal. Step 2, change your state first. Breathing, movement, vision. Give your brain the safety it needs first. And then step 3, choose sustainability. That means, do something for a shorter period of time. Keep it simple, keep it repeatable, that you can do it for a long run. That's how habits actually stick. And it's exactly what the NeuroHP method teaches. It's a brain first, the body comes next, the environment needs to be supportive, and self-leadership, sustainable, so health, performance, longevity, all of that works together. So don't forget to share this video with anyone that you think will benefit from this. I'm Heike Fallon. I hope you'll start investing in yourself. Start today because you deserve it. Thanks for watching.